Did you bring out this honey?
Yeah, it was mine.
Cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's good with the tea.
It's pretty good.
Okay, so thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. As I said, I got my 2 Pisces friends. One's a Pisces boar and one's a Pisces dog. And yeah, so we're here today to rap about some crap, some stuff. I just went through my lecture, so I'm wondering if you guys have any ideas relating to the stuff that we were just talking about that we could rap on.
I think my friend does.
Our friend the boar over here.
Yes.
Groovy.
So,
Take your time.
I was wondering how monkey-mindedness relates to the third man factor syndrome, which is a concept in science in which you appear to be contacted by some extra being. It's not syndrome isn't meant to put it into this category.
So, what does it mean to the monkey mind?
How does the monkey mind?
How does it relate to it?
Mm-hmm.
How does it relate to that concept of monkey mind you were saying in your lecture?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems to be pushing for like our evolution, right?
Turn that fan off, I think.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't hear you over it as much. As nice as it is.
No.
Yeah, sorry, buddy.
Oh no. Yeah, like I feel like this the third person or the
Third man factor.
Yeah, third man factor. It always seems to be guiding us into like a better direction, right? Or
like always?
No.
Or a yeah.
Shit. You got me.
Or a direction anyway, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard to tell whether the direction that you're perceiving from within, that third man factor, is the better of the piece of the triangle, so to say. I'm thinking the third man factor. Maybe I guess I'm trying to relate this to my whole shtick I just said.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Right.
How does it relate to you?
The self is sort of like one piece of it. Society is the other pole, I guess.
Okay.
And then maybe this third man factor is that blissful union between the self and other. And the monkey mind might be anything but that third man factor, if I understand it correctly.
Well, the third man factor refers to reported situations where an unseen presence, such as a spirit, provides comfort or support during traumatic experiences. So let me rephrase that.
Yeah, it's like an angel or a guardian angel.
Exactly, like that phenomenon. So I was wondering how it related to that on that level. Yeah.
As I understand Crowley's idea of the holy guardian angel, like we've been saying, is that it's hard to say whether it's an interstellar, interdimensional piece of yourself sort of attracting itself through in the present moment, trying to heal you that way. And it feels like it's something else because it's you extrapolating the future.
Right.
But really it's just your closest neighbor.
Yeah.
And so Crowley would call that guardian angel that I refer to sort of as a super terrestrial, superhuman, super dimensional consciousness or state of consciousness, an intellect. It's like a divine intellectual principle. That's the way I'm thinking that Crowley would talk about it.
Okay.
I guess I shouldn't say intellectual because that's the big question we're talking about, is the third man, whether
how it relates to the monkey brain.
Right, the monkey mind. Yeah, that's a good call.
Monkey mind.
Okay.
Yeah, so how does that...
Like, I'm thinking of the monkey mind.
Well, monkey mind implies that like it was like, something previous in our evolution kind of thing, right? Like when we were more monkeys than humans, right? I'm
relating it to more of a psychological thing in the sense of like it's kind of a metaphor, really, for unconscious programming. Right. Anything that is a neurotic program outside of your living, choosing conscious awareness in any present moment. It's like, you have a cigarette, right? It's
Yeah.
not you that has the cigarette. It's just the monkey really needs it.
Yeah.
I see.
Right. That's
Yeah.
so that's what I mean by the monkey mind.
Okay.
So that primitive programming, it has its place for certain things. Your body will go if you don't eat something, right?
Yeah.
You can almost call that, like, that's part of our biological
That's
instinct,
different. Yeah, that's almost
right?
different. Yeah.
What we're doing as creators in today's time is trying to cleave off the wheat from the chaff so that we know which part of our animal instincts to keep and which part that should be synthesized analytically through a mental framework or through intellectual, rational logic and linear thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, we won't need legs sooner or later.
No,
That's the
we'll always
plan.
need
No, I dig that, actually. I think we'll always need these bodies. I mean, that's a trippy thought.
Our hands might become more complex. Our eyes will definitely evolve, but
Yeah, isn't there like that once, like an extra sack on your stomach that allows you to like gorge?
Like, allows you to ingest a lot all at once so that you can hold it.
Yeah, like
think
it
it's
was for
maybe
like more primates, but
hibernation.
but now we're like kind of like in the midst of losing it, 'cause
I
we
think
don't really need it
I
anymore.
think we've already lost it actually.
Yeah,
Because
well,
food
some-
We
is
might
so
have just
plentiful.
recently lost it.
like yesterday. Or
Because I don't
something.
know. No. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just an old sack of neurons
Well, like-
that we don't need anymore.
Like wisdom teeth, actually pinky toes even. Pinky toes, people are starting to be
I
born
heard
without
that.
pinky toes.
That's kind of crazy, though.
It's
That's
evolution, man.
Well,
Don't need it, eh?
We don't need you,
I
pinky.
think that there's something to the fractal of the number 5 in the human body.
But isn't that weird? Because like
it is trippy.
what we hold as ideals or understanding as like these sacred things, and then juxtaposed with like
With
the
modern-
now,
yes,
with
totally.
what's happening.
But dig this, though. I always say the human body is divine because if you think of the 5-figured being, how could it be any other way? If we had 4 limbs, then I think the 5-limb being is your 2 legs, your 2 arms, and then your head is the 5th limb, so to say. If we had 4 limbs, then the head would be in the stomach, and where would the lungs go?
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
So, does that limit divinity to humanoids?
Huh, that's a big question. Because a lot of people would say so.
Because the universe is a big place, and I don't know if there would be, the humanoids may exist other places, for sure. But there's definitely other creatures out there that, you never know how many limbs they will
Right.
have or what their physical form may be.
Like dolphins.
Exactly.
Dolphins have,
Yeah,
like they're
dolphins.
said to be-
Elephants.
Elephants can draw themselves, and
Yeah, but even then, it stems from the
I guess
5 figures. If you take an elephant and you take it and it's got 4 limbs and a head. But like if you take it like outside of this world, even,
yeah.
does that limit divinity as far as we know? And is that intrinsically a bad habit, or is it something that's more than? Is it correct
Yeah.
to assume that?
I mean, divinity, the way I think about it, is an ergonomic principle for energy.
For sure.
So the question is, are humans more ergonomic than like elephants? It's a hard question because elephants are a part of the whole schema that's come about, and they didn't destroy the planet.
Yeah,
We're
seriously.
fucking it up pretty
Yeah,
bad, right?
yeah.
So who's really more divine there?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they can't really build things like we can, right? Like
That's
That's just an
little-
evolutionary advantage,
Yeah, like
right?
And so is evolution a function of the divine? That's an interesting question.
That's another
right?
question.
And is every evolution going to reflect a divinity?
Exactly.
I mean, maybe evolution is worth thinking about it as mutation in the sense that if you live in a community that's full of poison or something like that, a nuclear bomb was dropped there 60 years ago. Now the people are ingesting those mutated
Becoming
things.
immune to them.
And that's evolution.
yeah.
It's change.
That's a
the
fixed
question,
form.
right? The question is whether or not that evolution is reflecting a universal ergonomic principle for the way energy is
Yeah, that's
transmitted in reality.
Yeah.
Because that's what humans are, is we're transistors, right?
Yep.
We're batteries, or, transistor's a better word,
Yes.
something that either generates or holds or transmutes motion, I guess, right? Or energy, right? For the greater purpose, for some kind of there's assumedly some reason to our doing this. However, whatever amendments we make to the nature that we see all around us, we're hoping to be more. We're hoping for it to be conducive to a universal ergonomic design.
Okay.
Which does not grow from the ground up, which needs to be interloped by some sort of synthetic intelligence, like the human intelligence.
Right. But I want to reiterate to
of course,
you.
please
so
do.
How does this?
I just fucking go.
So how does this relate to, or sorry, so yeah, how does this relate to the concept of divinity is limited to humanoids?
Or whether it is.
Or whether it is,
right,
yeah.
Right.
Because it sounded like as if, it's divine because it has 5.
Ah, yes, that's right.
And there's definitely life forms out there that have way more, way less than 5,
and
are in. Yeah, exactly. Different
do
features that we can't even understand.
Yes, totally.
And have intellect beyond ours.
Yes.
And so that's definitely like, if you calculate that, that's beyond question. But it's whether or not, how does that relate?
Yes, because those developments, such as like an animal that has claws, four claws that can really do things, that's an ergonomic design for that animal.
Yeah.
And it's evolution, they're not going to survive without those types of claws, and so look at it go. It's a part of their thing, and you could call that energy ergonomics. I would call that divine. Now, that is an ergonomic energy for a feral state, I'm thinking. Animals try to survive, and if they have claws or if they have anything like that, they can probably get along a lot easier because they're safe and they are protected. Now humans are coming to a point where we make these houses that have walls that reduce the need to have claws, which keep us existing at a biological level. So there's a new form of consciousness that is coming from the reduced need to expend mental energy on survival.
Yes, as we understand it. Yeah.
As we understand it. Well said. Yeah. Because we're really fucking up our survival with this thing, So maybe there's a sublime, timeless bridge that's always going to be built in any terrestrial planetary organism when consciousness seeks to objectify itself through something like human consciousness, where there's a primal bridging being done between this synthetic 5-fingered linear rational analytical thinking and animal feral survival. Like I said, since we keep ourselves in these little boxes that keep us safe from the big bad wolf outside, we no longer need claws and all this badass feral stuff that we used to have and use.
Yeah.
But that energy's got to go somewhere. Wolverines would just sort of lumber. I've got all this energy and I'm going to lumber around and use it and catch my prey and go on to the next day, right?
For
now
sure.
Humans are lumbering around as well, looking for some way, somewhere, to put this energy that is no longer being used for feral purposes.
Yes.
And in the Western society, it all goes down a McDonald's fucking shoot, or like any sort of distraction that's, I would say, sensorial more than... The senses and euphorias have their place, but I think that spending energy with this new energy that we have, that we no longer need to spend it in feral biosurvival places. We've got to put it in a way which my ultimate philosophy lately is in a way which allows us to work while laughing.
Okay.
To still struggle, you know, because we need struggle in order to break through the cocoon of of mundane existence as transcendentalists, you know. We need to find a way to spend this no longer feral energy in a way which is conducive to some sort of ergonomic principle. In fact, we were talking about before. An ergonomic sense of the energy in the same way that a glove fits a human hand or a pair of scissors fits the human hand. The design it caters to the form of the thing that's using it. Yeah. For efficiency purposes, or like the way a car, it's not a box, because if you drove a box on the highway, the wind would blast against the front of it. Cars are concave and they have smooth, what's the word? Aerodynamic surfaces. Yeah. That reduce the friction of the air blasting against it. That's an ergonomic design. Absolutely. Which is conducive to really increased energy. If you drive a box around with the friction of the air blasts the top of this box, and it slows the thing down, but the engine is pushing the same amount, if not more, to make this object move, right? Let's say you got to transport a fucking bass amp to buddy's house, and you're driving a giant cardboard box, and the time it takes you is the same, even though the engine inside is using more fuel. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So having a concave aerodynamic car is conducive to literally the creation of energy.
Okay. So how does it relate to the number 5?
That's right. So the number 5 is what I would call a perfectly ergonomic design for a being who could employ this synthetic variety of consciousness that humans do.
So, okay.
And so this goes back to what I was saying. Like, I think the human body is very conducive to this state of consciousness we have, because if it had 4 limbs, like I said, the head would be in the chest, and where would the lungs go? Whereas if it was a 6-limbed being, it would have 2 heads, right? Because it would still try to be symmetrical. Perhaps. You know.
I'm 6-limbed.
Dill, I love it. Yeah, so a 6-limbed being... I fucking know, just thinking of this guy's extra limb. I'm sorry. It's funny. I would think a 6-limbed being, either it would have a limb, an extra arm, or an extra leg, which is asymmetrical, or maybe the kickstand in the front, you know? Yeah. Or it would have 2 heads. And that's a possible state of existence, you know? Yeah. If you look at some, like, Rick and Morty sort of view of the universe, anything can fucking be, right?
Yeah, it would definitely, like, they would evolve. But when they reach that state of, like, that, I had the word. When they progress to the point beyond us, is it capped at humanity possessing the ability to become divine?
Well, maybe we're all connected to it, right? That process.
And is the number 5 and our ability and our understanding of 5 being the ideal ergonomic value a selfish ideal? Because we ourselves are living it and experiencing it?
It's kind of like I'm the best dancer here because I'm the one that's dancing.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of, if we had other things there, just doing other things, it would completely change our view. I was just wondering.
Yeah, of course. It's an interesting question of whether that is like a human cynicism or whatever. I'm on the top because I'm on the top because...
Well, like 5's the best because it is, because
Right.
I am.
Right. I guess I think of... See, so you're right to question that, and I guess I would have to ground my position on, or this idea of it, of humanity being this ergonomic divinity thing. I would have to objectify the reasons for that. I guess the best one being that it's beautiful because the 5 fingers relates to the 5 limbs, and that is an expression of the fact that the microcosm
Right.
and the macrocosm
And
reflect each other.
Yeah.
So that's a sort of a principle of beauty, which is, beauty tends to reflect, like gold has like a radiance to it that you can see, and you could call it beauty or whatever, right? Anyway, my point is that, so if we only it's a trippy thought that we're losing our pinky toe. I think that's weird.
Crazy. It's crazy.
Maybe our shoes are getting tighter or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. But like the fact that that's actually happening,
it's very weird.
It's irrefutable to question the ideal of the number 5 in relation to humanity.
You're right, because if that's happening, then it's there it is. If that is the next step of evolution, then perhaps it is more ergonomic to have only 4 toes.
You never know.
I only suggest it because of that fractal idea.
Yeah, and that's a cool concept. But I think the coolest, like the most important, one of the most important thing is to not get attached to ideals too many.
Yeah, to idealism.
Too much. Yeah,
you're totally right. Yeah, I agree with that.
Because it's like it's like shifting and juxtaposing to the now.
I mean, it's such a toes are just such a one-off thing because if we didn't have one of our pinkies, it's kind of different, right?
For sure, and the way we've evolved, and the way we are going, we will continue in the same vein.
Like,
and we'll just advance.
Right, and it could advance even more.
If we used our feet more.
Yeah, for me, I think the next state of evolution will be 1, where we come from the 5 back to 1.
Yeah.
Software as opposed to hardware.
Right.
Right. Which is what we are anyway.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
So maybe we are. Yeah. So we all come back to the 1.
Right. But in between there, maybe the 1 of the universe right now is living in 3 dimensions through 5-limbed beings in order to generate the energy to cause some kind of thing that would allow the generation of consciousness at the level of that 1.
I dig.
Where you can do anything, I guess. It's a trippy thought because maybe when you dream, you tend to slip into or out of or become that 1 dissolving thing.
And you have an experience that changes your sense of
and then you're everything.
Self.
You're omnipotent and you can create anything in your dream, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's always like the odd number that really perpetuates things. Like it's like that's the odd number is the head. So it's like, you might be an ant with 6 limbs, or 6 arms, legs.
Yeah.
But then you have the head.
And the head will...
So that's the odd.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, like you're symmetrical and then a head.
Right.
Yeah.
A head. Holy fuck, that's psychedelic, Bill. It's like a head is like this thing that's coming out of the evenness or whatever.
Yeah, like an octopus has 8 tentacles.
Yeah, and then a 9th, a fucking head. That's psychedelic as fuck, man.
Yeah.
Same thing with the spider.
Yeah.
Those odd ones.
It's
the
always odd
numbers.
numbers. I think that's what it is.
You can go to the bathroom if
Yeah.
you like, but we'll wait for you. Yeah.
And then there's like the starfish that's like 5, and then the head is actually in the body.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. There you go. That kind of dispels what I was saying about the 4-limbed being.
How about the worm?
I thought you're peeing. Worm is the 1, and that's like...
Worm has got 2 heads.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Can it go backwards and...
It can go backwards and forwards. It's got 2 heads. 2 separate consciousness in 1 body.
So how does it take dumps?
It takes dumps through the other one's mouth.
Wow. So there's
And
like
vice versa.
Right.
Their tracks are great. They have like up to 5.
Oh, sorry, man. I had some
they have, like,
burritos
5
yesterday.
hearts. Yeah. Sorry, dude. No.
That's hilarious. Oh, cool.
But yeah,
This is fun, yo.
if they're all odd.
Well, you got me there. Worms are the one thing.
Not the one thing.
Yeah, the one thing.
It's 2. That's a trippy one. Worms are like a 2-headed animal.
Yeah.
Or a 2-limbed
And
There's not
rabbit.
too many two-headed things out there. So.
2-limbed things.
Or two-headed.
Yeah. I'm thinking of
Sea
the limbs
anemones,
factor.
maybe.
What?
Sea anemones?
Oh.
Yeah. And
Those tentacly guys?
yeah, totally. Or maybe like
Because
jellyfish.
they're a group of just like they're just consciousness, man. Just through that
And they all-
through these tentacle things, and they reproduce by themselves. They can clone themselves actually, identically, infinitely.
That's pretty trippy.
But
It's
they have
almost like-
consciousness.
Yeah. It's like a living, moving network
Thing.
of consciousness.
Yeah.
It's like when you see a school of fish, they all move together
Yeah.
in
And
synchronicity.
an interesting thought is that just hive mind, or is it an evolving consciousness?
Well, that there are certain aspects of that I'd say is evolutionary for sure.
Yeah.
Because there's an
Imagine that.
there's an ergonomic design. Like a big part of Timothy Leary's shtick is that there's an ergonomic design involved when you become tantrically infused with somebody else, through having a lover. Your lover, you eventually learn, you kind of sublimate what they're thinking, what they want, and if they need something, you've already got the thing prepared for them.
Yeah.
So that's them communicating. You're communicating messages to each other without the limited framework of a synthetic analytical human language.
I see. Okay.
And it's almost like the two are becoming a one.
Yeah.
which
yeah.
is a
And
greater
I've
sum.
definitely experienced that within my own life.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. So, I guess my point is that there's an ergonomic design there. And the same thing could be said for other forms like of consciousness we were talking about, like that network you were saying. What are those little guys? Anemones.
Sea anemones.
Sea anemones, yeah. I think I lost my train of thought originally though. We were talking about
sorry. Timothy Leary.
Yeah!
Concept of the One.
Yeah, I was saying something about Timothy Leary.
Yeah, with lovers. And
Right.
Something.
He was saying, when two people fall in love and they become one, they become ergonomic. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I was just talking about.
Economically involved.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess I was trying to say that psychism, that psychic connection, is like an ergonomic principle that negates the need for human analytical symbols, which can actually slow down the transmission.
For sure, and that's an evolutionary process within itself.
Right. Yeah, it's literally that's a good way of saying it. An evolutionary process of becoming symbiotic with somebody.
Yeah.
And it's almost like there's a third thing that is the result of the two pieces.
Either a third thing or a dissolution of the two.
Yeah. And maybe the dissolution of the two is what is like the making a concave car out of a box, right?
Yeah, it really depends on the person's perspective, I would say.
And I'd say a soul resonance on the part of the lovers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
and
totally.
how intimately involved they are.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of like soulmates, that two people can be
Twin flames.
ergonomic to each other,
Yeah.
Like if one person is one way, the other person can be the other way without making it ultimately destructive.
Forming the yin yang.
Yeah.
The yin
So
yang.
nothing,
Yin and yang,
though nothing is perfect and everything needs refining and contact and
Yeah,
communication.
of course. Totally.
But yes, absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah, I always thought about like how like your heart just beats on one side, so like when you like give somebody a hug, it's like kind of like get the two.
That's pretty sweet, actually. That's a cool
That's
thing.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thought.
It was just
like
like
it.
I never went any further than that.
That's
Just
great.
that thought.
It's a
It's
beautiful
literally
thought.
like
You feel complete.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At that
that's
heart
the
level.
wholeness.
the heart.
Wholeheartedly.
Wholeheartedly.
That's why. Yeah, that's amazing. That's a cool like
Image.
observation.
Yeah.
Because hugging like alleviates stress and anxiety and everything and fear and everything. It's so comforting.
Yeah, it gives you like a really deep feeling of closure.
Yeah.
That you can't really get by yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't wrap yourself up in
really
a bunch
cool.
of coats and try to get that same feeling.
It's a warming thought.
That's cool.
Yeah, it probably comes from when you're like nestled as a baby, right? Because you need to be nestled in order to grow, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think.
I mean, it's almost at a primal level, like I was talking about, how if you feel like you're in danger, you're not going to be able to function. You're going to be working on that primal making that primal feeling of danger go away.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with a baby.
Coping mechanisms and developmental like psychology of a baby.
Yes.
Is definitely dependent on the presence of the mother for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And without the presence of the mother, like children are known to like have severe psychological issues.
Right. That's pretty trippy.
Yeah.
That are irreparable.
Yeah.
And
Well, like if no one's there to take care of the baby, it will die. Like it needs somebody to.
Well, there's somebody, something, even.
Somebody,
like
something.
the baby raised by wolves.
Yeah,
Legend of Romulus.
Totally. I mean, to be honest, like that's why ayahuasca is such an incredible psychotherapeutic thing, because the idea is that you can do ayahuasca and revisit the most primordial moldings of your psychology. Like you could.
Could that be damaging?
I wouldn't think so, because it's only inner illumination.
Okay.
You would objectively observe that. You would objectively observe that. For example, if you didn't have a mother, you would see how that made a concave groove in your reality.
I see.
By objectifying.
I'm just wondering if it could shake the actual foundations in the present state of the person. You know,
it could,
if it's like a
for
harmful
sure.
event, or if they had a horrible childhood.
That's what a bad
maybe
trip
it's
is.
a cleanse. Yeah.
But
all a cleanse.
Yeah, totally. I would say that the strongest trips that you have are the ones which invoke a cathartic realization, right?
Sure.
As hard as that is.
Yeah, it's as hard as you know, as much as you don't want to hear something, could be the best.
That's right, because then you're over it.
It's right there in your face.
Then you're not under its thumb.
Yeah.
Totally, bro. It's like breaking out of a shell.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to have to do it. Like, oh, there's this fucking enemy that's all around me. But once you break through it, it's like, thank God. Yeah.
Here it is. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you can see from that other vantage point.
The next horizon. Totally, man.
Yeah. Like when there's fundamental trauma, then like sometimes you even forget it and like don't know why. Like it's hard to make out.
Totally.
Like
I think many people have some deep rooted traumas.
Totally.
That they don't ever want to admit, or they may not even be aware of. And I think even the inclusion of regular like mental health trips, if they had the concept of doctors but for mental health and the stigma was gone, this world would be a much better place.
I know what you mean, like
and
a
people
counselor.
would be able to and people would be able to deal with their problems and live in this world way better than what our society perceives as being like, oh, you got to be like, you know, no problems at all, you know?
Yeah.
Where if you had a counselor and it wasn't like, oh, you're seeing a counselor? Why are you seeing a counselor?
You There's definitely a stigma to going and seeing a shrink.
Absolutely, you know? and it's really BS that's keeping us in this like horrible state.
Yeah, I get
society.
That. Because a counselor, a psychological counselor, anybody that can bounce off you, it's like a mirror. Yes. And you can see the thing, and it's like if you've got this fucking canker sore on your face or something that's been bugging you and you couldn't see it before, oh, there it is.
Yeah, but they're trained. I mean? Yeah, they're trained in the way that like they can help you deal with these things without harming you and actually heal you.
Yes,
you know what
totally.
I mean?
To lead
and so
it in a healing
they
direction.
literally make it their life's passion to do that, to heal, and to not be in it for themselves and be in it to help the other person.
To not just do it as like an egotistical thing.
To do it for the benefit of the patient.
Right, totally.
And if people had that ability, to speak and to communicate those problems, I think it could be an amazing world we would be living in.
If everybody could do that.
Yeah, because a lot of power struggles even come from deep-rooted traumas.
Totally. That you can't even see.
Can't even see.
That's right. And it'd be cool. Like, I'm sketchy about hypnotism. I know it has its place.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that it's probably better to...
Hypnotism's actually got... Yeah, I'm trying to think of how it relates to psychology.
Well, because a psychologist could put you in a state of hypnosis where you're just, bleh, here's these repressed memories.
Yeah. But that's like
they're
Sigmund
in there.
Freud kind of...
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
Those repressed memories are in there. It's a black spot that you have programmed yourself to look around. A coping mechanism.
I think there's a theory in psychology that deals with that.
Mm-hmm. Like, the idea is that the guy would hypnotize you, you'd splurt out your repressed memories, but you're probably not even conscious for it.
Yeah, because that's what hypnosis is.
And then he gets these key points down, and then when you wake up, it's like, did you ever think about this and this and this? And then they objectify.
And they cross-reference it with your own.
Right.
Like how valid what you just spewed out was.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. That's cool.
So that's why I say hypnosis has its place, but it's just odd to me. I'd rather...
Yeah, it's an uncharted territory for me, anyways.
Well,
it definitely has its importance.
You have to
and
do it with someone
really
you really trust. Cause
that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, because you can't.
Because you're opening up your car to somebody.
Yeah, but as also with hypnosis, I've heard that you can't do whatever you wouldn't be okay with doing normally.
You can't do
what you wouldn't be okay with. What you wouldn't be okay with doing normally.
Oh, okay. So if you're afraid of...
So if they're like, give me all your money.
Right.
Then I'll be like, no.
Right, because you're in it
Because you're still in it.
Right.
You still have a foot.
I mean, yeah, I see what you mean. I just don't like somebody poking around in my subconscious while I'm not awake.
That's pretty interesting, yeah. It's like a surgeon.
Yeah, like how... If there's a way for me... I mean, through psychedelics, I'd say, it's more like, if you do psychedelics with somebody else, you're looking at, behind the lens.
Yeah.
And if you've got a loved, trusted friend there with you, you'll say, I've never thought about this and this and this and this in my life. And you're awake for it.
Yeah.
It's not like somebody is looking through your stuff while you're not conscious, right?
So I'd say even be careful with that, because, but it's for sure.
I see what you mean.
Just make sure you trust the people.
That's exactly it.
You know what I mean?
And you can probably find
even
it trusted.
and even the variance of trips, like how about if you're midway saying that and then you're like, bad trip.
Well, yeah.
Bad times.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. And I mean, ultimately, if you're gonna go on a bad trip, then it's kind of like the red light on your car saying, check your engine.
Yeah.
Or something,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's
so if
wicked.
So if it does happen and you go on a bad trip like that, understand it as a lesson.
Yeah, I'm loving these cars.
Yeah, I just got my car now. It's all totally. It's all car metaphors.
That's what I'm noticing.
That's hilarious.
That's karma.
It's all burned in there.
Karma.
I didn't even think of that.
No.
Yeah. Karma.
Yeah, I always think about the fundamentals as because I think about our past almost like as a tree, like if it was solid, then it would be kind of like a tree. You could see it grow. You could see trees growing around obstacles type of thing, and where it had trauma and it's still growing.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
And you can't. Yeah, and when you stunt a piece of the root, and then it still grows around.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I actually took a picture of when me and Dustin were out on a trip, and this tree, it broke, right, and it's it's at a total 90-degree angle, and then goes at another 90-degree angle and goes up. So it totally broke and was about to die, but somehow it maintained itself.
The will to live.
And then
Totally.
And the consciousness of trees is another cool thing.
And it's just automatic. Totally.
Yeah. I have so much to talk about the consciousness of trees.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, yeah. And and that's I always apply it to our lives in general, if
for
something broke you when you're when you're that young, right? You can see it down there, but you still got the will to live, and you're still striving towards the sun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a beautiful viewpoint.
Yeah, it is true though that the water coming from the roots of the tree would have to go through that conduit that you created there.
Yeah,
and
that's a beautiful analogy.
Totally.
Unless you were completely severed, then like, and then you'd just be dead wood.
Right.
I don't know.
Or it would be.
Yeah, it can always be replanted.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. It's kind of a trippy idea. Like, you'll wipe out everything, and like, I mean, that's what they say you can do with like real good acid. Yeah, I'm not done with it. Thanks. Or ayahuasca, and apparently iboga too.
Iboga. I've never heard that.
I've heard of
Iboga. It's like ibogaine. It's doing a lot right now for curing people of addictions and stuff like that. It's a lot of money to do an ibogaine session, but apparently it's fucking life-changing shit.
I've heard of it.
I'd love to try it.
You read
Breaking Open the Head?
Yeah,
Is that what you're
Breaking
thinking?
Open the Head.
Totally, yeah. That's what the whole thing is, the idea of, right? Is, that's Daniel Pinchbeck.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's not bad. And he's like a novel writer, yeah.
It's really interesting to see the perspective.
Take your time, Cody, buddy.
Yeah, sorry.
That's all good.
Do you have any other questions that you wanted to ask, or were those the two main ones?
Oh, I have more.
Cool.
As much, I can
Let's
go as
peel
long as
the
you
onion.
want, man. Like,
Yeah, we can talk.
how
to the
deep
other
does this
time.
onion go? Yeah, I won't shut up.
Cool, buddy. Yeah, same here. This is fun.
Okay.
I love how you've like accumulated points that we can just like,
I like that.
go at and see.
I just learned that through going to university and make points. And...
Cool, totally. We'll really solidify the foundation of everything that we're talking about.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I was wondering what. Wait, sorry. Let me read this again. Yep. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I was just mostly understanding. Yeah. I think this is my final actual point.
Cool.
So what do you mean by true meaning? And do you construe true meaning? Sorry. Oh,
Yep.
Christ.
Yep.
It's hard. It's hard to.
Because I think I know what you're getting at.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean by true meaning of life? I'm not trying to get like big and broad. But like
the way that I was talking.
What were you
about
saying?
I was saying
true meaning because I remember you mentioning it.
Right. Almost as opposed to the monkey mind. My idea is that that each person has a true subjective meaning, a coherent pattern to the seemingly arbitrary unfolding of the events in their lives.
So like an evolutionary process? Like the concept of evolutionary process?
Yeah, I can take that. Like there's an evolutionary growth.
Do you know about what an evolutionary process is? Like in the terms of like philosophy?
I can understand in vague terms of the word the way we were just
right.
About it, but please feel free to
just give me a second.
Yeah, totally. Feel free to what's the word? Illuminate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Evolutionary process. Like there's a larger there's our larger evolutionary process being contained in the total existence of the person. Like there's some kind of genetic pining towards some limiting behavior throughout maybe perhaps many lifetimes.
Yeah, I was just wondering what you meant by true meaning.
True meaning. Yeah, it's almost like Dharma.
And I was just wondering. Yeah, it is. It harkens back to
the Indian concept of Dharma.
Yeah, it made me think of that.
Totally.
But what do you mean by it?
Right. So by true meaning, that is kind of what I'm like. Dharma is a perfect word to use. The Indian concept of Dharma, I believe, is each person's individual duty.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And if I understand it correctly, it usually relates to a karmic thing in the sense that you don't have to be in the mercantile class just because your caste came out and told you that you were a merchant. Like that's how they used to think back then.
Yeah.
The idea is that the true meaning for you of dharma, of duty, is not like, like I like to consider myself an artist, and if I was to call that my dharma, it's not something that is a bummer. Oh, geez, I've got this duty that I have to do.
Yeah.
It's more like my whole life is an emanation from my essence, and I have to find a way to be receptive to the signal of my life and learn how to be conducive to the best natural expression of that emanation.
So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, like,
You know, because like I understand.
yeah. It's,
what
I'm
you're
getting
saying.
at these vague
But it's very
ideals.
but it seems very vague and it's very wordy.
Yes,
you
thank
know?
you. I appreciate you saying
That's
that.
okay.
So, the subjective meaning of the individual, which I would call the true meaning.
So true meaning, what do you mean by true meaning?
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing. You know, if your boss tells you that, you know, you're a peasant right now, but someday you could be some higher thing that's still lower on the ladder of the many things you could be in this company that you're working for, we could call that a meaning. You know, that's a meaning of your, that's a duty, that's a status of your life in that direction. But is that the true meaning of who you are? Are you to relegate the pitch of your roof of your total entity to the arbitrary placements that just you developed into through the natural process of your nature going through material reality?
Okay.
So I would say the true meaning of your life is to make... I always come back to ergonomic. To take the seed of your karma, of the life that you've lived so far,
Okay.
and transmute the energy in a way which is conducive to the greatest possible bliss.
Right. And that's through the aperture of
The subject.
of understanding karma as, you know, I'm just saying as someone on the outside looking in. You know, is that so that as I understand is through the aperture of understanding karma and past lives as a belief that you integrate into your everyday life.
Right.
Yeah.
Your genetic actions that have got you to the place where you are today is the idea of karma.
Right. Yeah. I know. I just want to say, like,
course.
broadly for the sake of lecture.
And Dharma is always connected with karma.
Yeah.
That's why back in the day when they had the caste systems, you had to know that the real people who understood what was being said by these terms, Dharma is always a function of karma. Or maybe you could say it the other way around, karma is a function of Dharma. But the Dharma is not a arbitrary placement from any social fabrication.
Right.
Or from the arbitrary placement of yourself in your society.
Okay.
The Dharma relates with the karma of the individual, of what has happened to you in your life to make you be born into a life that you would attract the events that happen to you. That's why I say, like, a gene code is my idea, right?
Yeah.
The soul is all genetics, man. Or at least it's expressed in genetics.
For sure.
I always like to say that spirit leans on the fulcrum of the genes, of the contours of the vehicle, so to say.
I see.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that Dharma, when I keep saying Dharma, I'm trying to answer your question of the true meaning, right?
Yeah.
The true meaning of an individual depends on what happened before them.
I see.
Before the present moment.
Yeah.
I said a line in my little lecture there that was, the head of the snake depends on where its body has been. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And where you're going depends on where you've been and where you are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the true meaning of the individual depends on where they've been, on karma.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the idea for all of us is to be able to use where you've been in the most ergonomic way to your soul to get the most bliss for your material buck, your genetic buck, your time, within a social, a society where you have to deal with energy and other people's energy and intentions.
Mm-hmm.
In a way that my idea lately is that there's an internal bliss for the individual and also a collective transpersonal bliss. And the bliss of the individual is dependent on the transpersonal bliss of the collective.
Cool. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So the true meaning of the self very much...
So by what you mean in the lectures or overall?
Well, yeah, I guess both. Overall, I'd say. The true meaning of the self is necessarily going to include an ergonomic design for the mouth of the psyche to relate to the circumstances into which a person is born.
Right.
You know,
I understand what you're saying.
Like, I could say that my true meaning is to be like a guy who just does psychedelics all the time, and who gets tantric with a girl, and who or anybody I should say, and becomes one with bliss, like just a huge orgasm of bliss in my life. I could say that is my true meaning if that is for me, and I feel like it is. But it's irrelevant to the fact that I will not be able to bridge that bliss function in myself if I cannot relate my character and personality to the social construct in which I'm living, which helps me to perpetuate the bliss that I'm seeking to involve myself in.
Yeah. Okay.
In like my last lecture, I talked about how there's an ergonomicness to traveling in packs. Human beings have lost, like I said, we've lost our claws, we've lost our fur, and our big old fangs and stuff. We've lost all the things that would allow us to survive well in the wild by ourselves. So now it's we're kind of pushed into a biological corner here, where it's like, you guys have to stick together or you're not going to make it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
And that's just how we are right now.
Right.
Because we're very social.
Very social, and because that's where we've come from. Like I said, I guess I keep reiterating.
Yeah.
We've lost that feral survival impulse, and now our mental energy has been used somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so...
And we've already talked about this.
Right, that's right. I'm trying to relate it to the point that there is... you get a genetic extension from being in a tribe. Because... or like, what I mean is an ergonomic extension.
Okay.
Because if you, in your life, are constantly wasting time looking around in all 10 directions or whatever in order to make sure that no one's trying to stab you. If someone is watching your flanks, or if you're in a protected area,
you have more success.
you have more energy to put into less feral survival instincts, right? So there's a energy, I keep saying ergonomic, but like there's a energy surplus that we attain by working together to attain a state of at least relative peaceableness, or feeling like we're not in danger.
Yeah, as a species.
Right, as our species.
On a species level.
Right. The reason for that is that we have more time to add through whatever internal talents we have as individuals to the collective energy pool, or resource pool.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we don't have to, because we belong to a tribe, our food is kind of there for us, and everything is kind of provided for us.
Yeah, and society being this tribe, modern society.
That's right. It's a tribe, just like any other, kind of thing. My idea is that because we are in true.
It's an effed up tribe.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty messed up, no doubt. It's not very unified or whatever. But my idea is that coming from nomadic, and then there's the tribal will be the next step of being with other people that'll help you to have this energy increase.
Yeah.
And then allows you to express your soul more.
Yeah.
Because you can express your soul in a much more...
It's more peaceful. I know, like,
Right.
without having to worry about everything else.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
It's
though,
more true. It's you're able to become more vulnerable.
Yes.
And that ability to become vulnerable
allows you to discover what are the way lines of your riverbed of your soul.
Yeah, it allows us to even talk like right now, man.
Totally, man. So I guess we're still talking about the true meaning of the individual.
Yeah,
I keep
and
trying
what it
to
means
bring
to you
about,
and your philosophy.
That's right. I keep trying to bring around the point that there's a soul within the individual that has a genetic datum, or if colors are another metaphor you could use. If you're red, then you're not green.
Mm-hmm.
If you're blue, then you're not yellow. These are
I'm just a little confused.
I'm talking about way lines of the genetic personality.
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Some people are
so
different
typing.
from other. Typing, that's a good way. Yeah, that's right. You're on the right track. Each person, I mean, ultimately we're infinite. We're always changing and stuff. But
Yeah.
we do. There are grooves in the riverbed that comes from the genetic action that we've extended in our genomes for all the time that we've been living and all the data we've collected from our past actions.
Yeah.
In the same way, a cigarette gets more and more delicious after every one you have because the water is making a concave design in the riverbed of the total beingness.
Yeah.
The Hindus call those samskaras. It's like strands of action, right?
Huh.
Yeah. And I believe that, so that's what I was talking about. Each soul has concave impressions from the neurological development of the evolutionary progression that you were talking about.
Evolutionary process?
Thank you. Yeah. A multi-incarnational evolutionary process that's going on.
Okay.
So my idea is that the true meaning of the individual involves finding out how one can attain the bliss one seeks within a socio-tribal a society. That's what I'm trying to say. Within a society which has rules, laws, regulations, and things which are sometimes conflicting or contradictory to the soul impulse of the individual.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, totally. I guess I'm really trying to stitch that up, my idea that the true meaning of the individual involves not only soul cadences, soul nature, but also the soul of the individual has to relate effectively with the material conduit which they need in order to truly express the best amount of their spirit that they can. Because you could just try to be spiritual without considering the material of reality, and you'll die, and then the sun won't have shined as much as it could have.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Totally.
Illuminating.
Yeah. Thank you for asking, man. I love these. These objectifying questions that you throw at me.
I love it. I just love doing that.
I feel like the true meaning is like the pursuit of just that, and just trying to figure out what that is, and that's also where the third man comes into.
Yeah.
The third person.
Yeah. If there is a super intelligent consciousness that's trying to beam you out of the limiting.
Well, third man comes in when you're in a traumatic experience.
Well, it can.
Well, that's what third man means.
Oh,
just make sure you get the meanings right.
Oh, is that what you meant by that? Like
third man is a phenomenon. Like
what I mean is that since it came through a traumatic experience,
not necessarily an intense experience, just like through an experience.
Gotcha. Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Intense experience, yeah. So the third man kind of thing is more of like a sort of like a phantom coming from an intense experience, not necessarily a bad phantom.
It's the concept of a guardian angel or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they're like, "Oh man, my guardian angel, like it saved me." Or,
Right, but of course that could always be like either a subjective wishful thinking kind of thing.
That's what I was trying to relate
right.
in that moment, and
Yes,
that when I was asking you, I was trying to relate that concept.
Right.
To the concept of.
Is it actually me just wishfully hoping? I really hope there's someone guiding
Yeah,
the
there's
rails,
I was.
or is there actually an intelligent consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Well,
That's interesting.
The guy who founded science was actually visited by an angel, and that's.
Yeah, that's what it said in recorded history, which is pretty.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
The angel told him that reality will be solidified through like measures and numbers. Numbers and measures.
Yeah, that's pretty tricky. This has been cool though. I think we've pretty much scraped the bottom of the bucket for now.
Actually, like after all that talk about like 5 being sacred and stuff, I'm starting to think like, what of numbers even are anything of importance at all? I mean, when you're doing like work and you want things to like fit and stuff like that, that works. But I mean, like in the spiritual sense, like numbers are like, because spiritual is infinite and no number is. There is no number when it comes to
I don't know
infinite.
about that. I would say transcendental is infinite.
Yeah.
But I think spiritual is going to involve contour in the same way that if you dump water down a hill that is complete, that doesn't have any dips in it, it's just going to go in the same speed. But if it has a big dip in it, like it has a concave thing, then the water's going to go faster.
I see, yeah.
Through gravity and through that concave design.
Yeah.
So that's spirit to me.
Okay.
And yeah, that's what I was just thinking anyway.
I always thought that like you would transcend into like, you know, the boundarylessness of spirit.
Right.
But you
time.
What time is it?
10:23.
Oh, true. Do you guys want to call her one? We did.
Gotta get
It's
home
all
soon.
cool, buddy. We did some really good conversations today, gentlemen, and yeah.
I can't fucking do it anymore.
Thank you so much, you guys, for being here with me to do this whole lecture dealio, and thank you so much, world, for listening to us. We'll see you guys around. Cool.